Today's video is to help you with your quiz since I will not be able to do the review for you today. So I'm going to walk you through the 5 questions that are on today's quiz. The first one is to find for the following right triangle, find the length of side x. And it's asking you to round your answer to the nearest hundredth. Because we have a right triangle, we're going to go ahead and use the Pythagorean theorem. So remember, the most important part of the Pythagorean theorem is the C. C is your hypotenuse. So you need to make sure that you find and label C first. So remember, C is the side that does not contain the 90 degrees. So right here, this is my hypotenuse, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label it C. Okay, so there's my C. My other two sides are A and B, and it doesn't matter where you place them. A and B are interchangeable. It's C that cannot change. C has to be the hypotenuse. Now you're just going to go ahead and you're going to substitute in your A, your B, and your C values into the Pythagorean theorem. So let me go ahead and get my Pythagorean theorem ready. I'm going to go ahead and make what I like to call a skeleton, which is just going to allow me to substitute in very quickly my values. Since I know that C goes here, I'm going to go ahead and place the 11 over here. And then my 8 goes right here. And of course, my A value is X. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to multiply these out. Remember, x squared is x times x, which is x squared. 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. And 11 squared is 11 times 11, 121. Then you have to really pay attention to your equal sign. Draw yourself a line through it because now you need to decide, are the two numbers, the 64 and the 121, are they on the same side or are they on different sides? In this case, they are on different sides. I can see that right here. So what I have to do in this case is I need to subtract the 64 from the 121. Okay, so let me go ahead and subtract. And let me go ahead and subtract in my calculator. 121 minus 64 is 57. Okay, then remember you're going to take the square root of both sides. And remember, ooh, that was not good. There we go, that looks better. Remember in geometry, we do ignore the fact that we have a positive and negative answer. We ignore the negative answer for geometry because we're talking about the side of a triangle and it cannot be negative. All right, let me put the square root of 57 into my calculator and let's see what we get for a decimal. 7.5498 3, and there's a bunch more numbers. 4435 is what I can see. Now they are asking me to round to the nearest hundredth. They are asking me to round in question number 1 to the nearest hundredth. So I think of the number 100. And when I think of the number 100, I know that the decimal goes right between the 1 and the 0. This is important because it's telling me how many places, how many numbers does my answer need to have. After my decimal, okay, I can have whatever in front. I mean, there could be more, okay? There's not for this one, but after my decimal, I need 1, 2 numbers. So I'm going to go to the second number. I'm going to find my decimal, and I'm going to find my second number. Here's my second number after my decimal. Here's my second number after my decimal. This is the one that I'm going to decide, does it stay a 4 or does it become a 5? And the person or the number that's making that decision is the one right after it, the number 9. All these numbers here, they don't matter. Okay? So the rule says 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, add 1 more. And we're talking about the 9. So since the 9 is 5 or more, I'm going to add 1 more to my 4 and say 7.5. 55. That's the answer that I would put here in the blank in Alex. Okay. Question number 2 is the word problem. So I have one where a kite is flying in the air, has a 12-foot tail attached to it. Its line is pulled taut and casts an 11-foot shadow. Find the height of the kite. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest tenth. That's just meaning that in case when I put it in the calculator, I don't get a whole number, I need to round to the nearest tenth. We're going to go ahead and use the Pythagorean theorem again, and luckily they've drawn the picture for you. Okay, they've drawn the picture for you. So you're going to go ahead and find your C, your hypotenuse, because that one is the most important. It is 12, so I'm going to go ahead and plug it in right away. And then remember, you make the other two your A, and I'm going to call it X instead of question mark. And then you're going to find your B, and I'm going to use 11. All right, so remember you're multiplying x times x, that's x squared. You're multiplying 11 times 11, 121. And you're multiplying 12 times 12, 144. You're going to take a look at your equal sign. Split it. They're split once again, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract. Now remember, if they were together on the same side, I would actually add. If they were together on the same side, I would actually add. 144 minus 121 is 23. Take the square root of both sides. And you're going to give me the answer that your calculator says. You are not going to give me the negative number. All right, my calculator gives me a decimal. 7, 9, 5, 8, 3, 1, 5, 2, 3 is what I see. But I have to go back. Where are they asking me to round? Well, they asked me this time to round to the nearest tenth. Tenth makes me think of the number 10. I put my decimal right in between the 1 and the 0, and I need one number after the zero, or sorry, after the decimal. So find the decimal. I need this number and I need nothing else. So let me go back and let's figure it out. So this is the number I need in the answer. The one right after it is always going to tell me if I should round that 7 or let it rest. And the 5, the 8, the 3, and all those other numbers, they don't matter to my answer. They don't matter to my final answer. 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, add one more. 9 is 5 or more, so I'm going to go ahead and say 7. Nope, that was the last time. 4.8. 4.8. All right, I'm going to zoom out of the page and I'm going to pause for just a second so you can take a picture if you'd like. Now let's go ahead and let's go ahead and look at the last 3 questions. So question number 3 is going to ask you about the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. It is going to give you a triangle, and they are going to ask you to do some math for them. So simply right here, they want you to compute the sum of the squares of the shorter legs. So they've already done the problem for you. They just want to know what is 12 squared plus 16 squared. And of course, if you have the calculator with the capability, you could go ahead and place that all in at once. That's what I did. But you could also do 12 times 12 and then 16 times 16 and add those two numbers together. Then they want you to compute the square of the longest leg. So they want you to do this, 20 squared. Okay, then you're going to put a check mark next to the one that is the biggest. You want to focus on the one that's the biggest. So in your mind, put the check mark next to the one that is the biggest. Well, these ones are the same. If a squared plus b squared is bigger, That means if your check mark is here, you would pick acute. If your check mark is here, this one is bigger, C squared is bigger, you would click obtuse. But if they are the same, like we have here, you're going to pick right triangle. These ones are a right triangle because they are equal. They are equal. Let's try it one more time. So 6 squared plus 7 squared, 85. 11 squared, 121. Put a check mark next to the one that is bigger. Okay, notice I'm not physically putting a check mark because I can't in Alex. I'm just doing it in my head. This one is bigger. This is my C squared. So here it is. This triangle is obtuse. Okay. The last two questions are going to talk about the geometric mean. My last two questions are going to talk about my geometric mean. Notice in question number 4, the altitude is marked with the variable z. So that means it is the geometric mean, and I'm going to go ahead and use this proportion. In question number 5, my altitude is not marked, so that means the leg is the geometric mean, the 6, and I'm going to go ahead and use this proportion to solve. These are the only two that you could have. You either have one or the other. Hopefully you will have one of each, but it could be that you have two like question number 4 or two like question number 5. But these are the only two types of questions you can have for 4 and 5. Let's go ahead and get started with question number 4. So I'm going to fill out my proportion with the altitude in the denominator and the altitude in the numerator of each one of the fractions. Okay, I'm going to place my altitudes here and here. Now it says I'm going to put part of the hypotenuse above the 7, and I'm going to put the other part of the hypotenuse below. You could switch the 3, 4, and the 2. That's perfectly fine, but they just need to fill in the other two blanks. We are going to go ahead and cross multiply. Z times Z is Z squared. 4 times 2 is 8. Just like in the Pythagorean theorem, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the square. Let's try that again. We're going to take the square root of each side. We're going to ignore the fact that we do have a negative square root because we're talking about a part of a triangle. It is asking us to not approximate our answers. Do not approximate your answer. So you are simply going to leave this as the square root of 8. That's what you're going to put into Alex. All right. Question number 5. My leg, which is 6. Remember, they're talking about the large triangle when they start asking you for the leg. The leg could be either on this side of your altitude or on that side of your altitude, always from the one from the 90 degrees that has the line going through it. Okay? So that's how you'll know it's your leg. It could be here, or remember, Alex could put it over on the other shorter side as well. But the 6 is going to go bottom of the first ratio, top of the second, because that's what the formula says. Now it says I'm going to put the whole hypotenuse. The whole hypotenuse goes right here. This is the whole hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and put 7 here. And then the part of the hypotenuse next to the leg has to be the x. This is the part. This is the whole. Okay, so x goes here. All right, I'm going to crisscross multiply, and this time I'm going to do 7 times x first because I like to have my variable on the left side, and 6 times 6 is 36. I'm going to go ahead and divide by 7. I don't think 7 divides into 36, but I'm going to check it in my calculator because I have a calculator that will do fractions for me. Nope, I was right. 36 over 7 is how I'm going to leave my answer because I once again see it's saying do not approximate your answer. Good luck, guys.